Are you thinking of selling your home? Maybe you've started to Google or are starting to talk to friends or family about it. In this video, we're going to go over a few things to ask yourself to determine whether you may or may not be ready. We're going to go over what your selling options are and give you some examples, and we will cover what you can expect from this process at a high level. So stick around, and I'll tell you how to get your free guide to selling your home, which has a selling your home checklist and a home selling process flowchart, and a whole lot more. It's a lot, so let's dive in. Hi, I'm Charlotte, your Thurston County real estate broker. Let's start with some of the questions to ask yourself to determine whether or not you may be ready. First and foremost, do you have equity in your home? So I do have a video on all things equity, and you can check that out here, but basically equity is the difference between what you owe on your home and its market value based on factors like price appreciation. So let's say that you have a $200,000 mortgage, and when we discuss your professional equity assessment report or PAIR report, you realize that your home's market value is $350,000. Your equity at this point is $150,000. Your PAIR report will include a net sheet. Now, a net sheet will show you what you can potentially walk away with when factoring in estimated costs to sell your home and sometimes potential credits. That cash amount you end the transaction with is your true equity. Number two, what is your goal in selling and moving? Are you looking to sell and move into something bigger or something smaller? Are you relocating out of the area? Or are you selling a home that you inherited? Are you selling an investment property? The answer to this question will determine your next steps and next questions to ask yourself, as well as kind of help you determine what approach you may want to take to sell the property. I'll go through this in a little bit more detail in a moment, but let's go through the rest of the questions that you should be asking yourself. So for example, let's say that you're selling so that you can move into something bigger. Then the next set of questions that you need to ask yourself are, number three, do you have a debt outside your mortgage, and are you able to move to your next place financially? So if you have debt outside of your mortgage, what's your debt to income ratio? Do you have a down payment saved to purchase your new house, or is a down payment coming from the equity from the sale of your current home? The same question kind of goes towards the cost of moving. I mean, you need to have these funds prior to the sale of your current home, because most likely, with very few exceptions, you're going to have to move out of the house before you actually close on your current home and before you actually receive those sale proceeds. So you need to make sure that you're prepared for that. Question number four, do you have cash for home improvements? Curbio's latest survey shows that 75% of potential home buyers think that improvements to a home are necessary before they are listed for sale, while only 43% of sellers think this. That's quite a discrepancy. And 68% of the buyers in that survey say their biggest deal breaker is a home that is in, disrepair with visible wear and tear. 77% say they won't even consider a home that's not move-in ready. I mean, that's a lot of buyers that think that. So if you have some cash to do some repairs, paint, and a bit towards curb appeal, you will be much better off and be able to likely sell for more money than if you didn't. Now, if you're in a bucket where you don't have the money to make these repairs or improvements, then you'll need to know that it may take longer to sell and will likely sell for less than your competitors. Okay, let's kind of go back to what your goal is in regards to selling and moving. Did you know that you have options for selling? You've probably heard from the majority of real estate agents that you only have one option, and that's to go full force into the traditional open market. But let's be real, that's not the only way to sell your house and might not truly be the best option for you. Let me explain. Now, to get the most money from the sale of your home, you will in fact want to sell it on the traditional open market. That means show it in the best light and get the most exposure on your home. You'll get photos and find an agent who has a really good digital marketing plan to go with the traditional marketing strategy. That's hands down the best way to go about selling your home to get the most money on it. But there are some cons, right? Every approach has pros and cons. So in this situation, some of the cons are that you've got to do the prep work. You got to do the repairs, get the photos done, and all of that. Then once it's on the market, you've got to keep it clean and be up and gone with the pets and kids at a moment's notice. And if you've got an agent that wants to do open houses, then you've got to be gone all weekend, right? It's freaking hard work. And is it worth it to get, the most money possible? Yeah, probably. But let's say that that's just too much. Maybe there's health issues or job issues or, whatever. There's tons of different reasons why this might not be the best option for you. Or maybe you just don't have the money or the time to do the repairs. You do have other options, so let's talk about them and some of the pros and cons. Keep in mind, these are options that I offer to my clients. I work with you through the process on each one of these so you aren't left behind and you aren't confused. And I have partnerships with different companies through my brokerage that allow me to make these available to my clients. The first is iBuyer. It's probably one that you've heard of the most. Basically, this is an investor that is going to view the property and determine how much it will cost them to do the repairs necessary to bring it to a really good market value for them. They will then factor in their costs as well as charge you a fee for the transaction. So you aren't paying an agent compensation, so to speak, but you do still have fees. You also aren't going to get top dollar for your property, but you will likely close really fast, usually in as little as 7 days. So if you've got to relocate immediately or you've inherited a property that you just don't want to deal with making the repairs and selling it on the open market, then this is a good option for you. The next program that we have is called Prepare to Sell. This program is designed to help you maximize the value of your home through home renovations. The data shows that buyers want ready-to-move-in homes, as we've talked about, and they're willing to pay a premium. In fact, most homeowners miss out on about 15 to 20% of the value of their home. Basically, a project manager is going to come and evaluate your home, and together we're going to determine which renovations and repairs make the most sense to do and that will net the most money. The program provides the guidance, capital, and oversight to make sure that you are maximizing the profit when you sell. They don't charge a fee, and you pay for the renovation through the sale of the home at the closing table. Renovated homes have higher profits and sell faster by about 72%. So if you're in a situation where you really do want to go to the open market but don't have the funds, then this is another really good option. Another program we have is the Sell 360 program, which is a program that allows you to sell your fixer-upper property today for tomorrow's after renovated value. The way this program works is the company that I work with will buy the property for its after renovated value. So you as the client get a check up front to make the move that you need to make. Then they get to doing the renovations and then they sell the property, and then you'll get the additional check once the property has sold. Then there's the buy before you sell program. Let's say that you also do want to go to the open market, but you need to sell to access your equity to make the renovations necessary for, selling at top market value. The way this program works is that you buy your new home before selling your current home. So you buy your new home with a non-contingent offer, meaning you don't have to sell your current home first in order to qualify, and it's guaranteed to close in 30 days. Now, both of these are key points to a strong offer on a home. Once you close on your new home, then you can move into your new home and then renovate and update your current home without any cash out of pocket up front. Then you can sell your, now current home for top dollar while it's vacant and staged, which means you don't have to worry about keeping it clean all the time or leaving at a moment's notice for showings. One other really great aspect is that they cover your old mortgage payments until it sells. All of the costs for the renovations and any fees that there are then taken out of the proceeds from the sale of the home. The program is pretty cool, and it's different than other kind of bridge loan programs in that you don't have to pay for both mortgages and make both monthly mortgage payments at the same time. They pay your old mortgage payments and then they are reimbursed out of closing. There is another option, but it's really one that I can't help you with, and that's for sale by owner. Now, every single one of these programs has pros and cons, and this is one that I think has a lot more cons than pros. And I'm sure you're thinking, Charlotte, of course you think that, all agents don't like for sale by owner because they don't get compensation. And while that's true, I wouldn't get compensated. That's not really why I think that. There's just a lot more risk to you, both legally and financially. So I really should do a whole additional video on just this because like I said, there is, a pro that you don't have to pay for compensation, but there are a lot of cons, and there's a list of things that you might not be aware that are actually done in the transaction by the agent and the things that we cover that you don't know. So while that is an option, I would just caution you to be sure that you are fully aware of all of the pros and cons of that particular program. So just keep all of this in mind when determining which approach to take when selling your home. You have options and each one has pros and cons. So we've covered the top questions you need to ask yourself, and we've gone over the different options you have. So now let's talk about the home selling process at a high level. The process will change based on which selling approach you take. The iBuyer option will look very different than the traditional open market approach. Since the traditional open market approach is the most common, let's go over that process. Step 1, talk to a real estate broker. Let me tell you why this is the first step. There's a lot that goes into this conversation. First, sometimes you might need help kind of talking through your goals and determining how to proceed, which approach you want to take. And since we're discussing the traditional open market, you are probably really curious to know how much your home is worth. So during that discussion, we will discuss what kind of repairs or renovations to do. We only want to do what makes sense, not everything. The repairs or renovations you do will affect what your home is worth. So once we talk through this, we can set a realistic price. And as part of this conversation, we're going to talk about how much it will cost you to sell, your closing costs. You will need to know what your net sheet looks like. You'll need to get some information for your real estate broker as part of this step so that you can get a true, real net sheet. Step 2, talk to a lender. If you are purchasing another home, whether downsizing or upsizing, that will require you to use a loan to purchase, you're going to need to talk to a lender as well. This is because you need to know whether you need to sell your home before you buy your next home, or maybe you don't and you can carry the loans of both homes until your current home sells. Now, even if you think you can carry both homes financially, doing this will affect your debt to income ratio, which is what's used in determining what loan amount you're approved for on your new home. So you may be looking at substantially smaller loan amount approval than you think. So this is why it's so important to talk to a lender, because it will affect the offer you put in on your new home. The seller needs to know if your purchase of their home is dependent or contingent on your current home being sold. Step 3, doing your prep work. Now, during our conversation in step 1, we've discussed what you will need to do to your home to get it ready for the open market. We will have put together a calendar with realistic dates on when each task will be completed. So for example, how long will it take to paint? Will you do it yourself or will you have to hire someone? You'll have tasks to declutter and deep clean, and we'll have discussed all the different staging options. So step 3 is completing all of the tasks required to get your home ready for professional photography so we can list it on the open market. And it's work, don't get me wrong. This is where the bulk of the time is spent. And part of my job is to help you get the most money possible for your home, so it needs to look its best. Step 4, marketing plan, photography, videography, and virtual tour. Once you are all prepped, the still photography, drone photography, videography, and virtual tour are completed. There's a little bit that's required on the day of, like making sure there are no cars parked in front of the house or in the driveway, for example. And I'll provide you a list of things to do the day of, but then you'll kind of be off while it's being photographed. Then I get to work on getting the marketing plan in place. Step 5, go live and review offers. Once it's live, we will start to see showing requests come in. Potential buyers will view the property and hopefully provide feedback. Then an offer or offers will come in, and then it's time to evaluate them and decide if you want to negotiate, encounter, accept one, or reject. Once you've got one with agreeable terms on both sides, you accept the offer and you go under contract or pending. Step 6, under contract. Once you are under contract, a few things happen. 1, if inspections have been negotiated as part of the contract, the buyer's agents will work with us to determine a time that the inspector will be able to come out and complete those inspections. And we will enter a potential renegotiation period here. Once we are through inspections, the lender, if there is a loan, gets an appraisal done. This is potentially another area of renegotiation depending on what the property is appraised for. During this step, the escrow and title company will be doing their part to make sure that everything is on the up and up and that the property can actually be sold. For example, there aren't any hidden sellers that haven't approved the sale. There is actually quite a bit more in this step with escrow, but that's just one example. A huge part of this is packing up your home to be ready to be moved out of the home before step 7 is completed. Step 7, sign the paperwork and record the new deed. The last of this is that once the lender has funded the loan, the buyers and sellers have signed all the paperwork, the escrow company sends the new deed to the county recorder's office to be recorded. And once it's been recorded and this has been completed, we actually hand the new buyer their keys. And then it's done. Phew, only 7 steps. Not a big deal, right? When you break it down into these steps, it's definitely more manageable. Don't get me wrong, it's, a lot goes into each step, but we break it down even further when we're working together. You'll know each week what to expect, what your tasks are, and what my tasks are, as well as what escrow is doing. The key takeaways for you are to make sure you are answering those questions about why you want to sell, if you have the equity, and if it makes sense to sell, and then decide how you want to sell, which program or approach you want to use. When you're interviewing agents to have this discussion, make sure you ask if they have these programs. Not very many do. When you call me, I'll ask a few questions over the phone, and then when we meet in person, I'll bring the list of options and the breakdowns of each program so we can talk about each one to determine which makes the most sense for your situation. I encourage you to download my free guide to selling your home, which has a selling your home checklist and a home selling process flowchart and so much more. You can click the link in the description below to grab it. If you have any questions about selling your home, please reach out to me. I'm here to help. As always, I hope this was helpful. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.